Well, hey there! You're on the internet, it's Shimmertastic Week, and welcome to the Triple N Network, where all you newbie nib nerds can find all the news you'll need. Oh my god, we're nearly there. Okay, so this is 9 out of 10 for the series of Shimmertastic inks, which are so glittery, and I am glitter traumatized. I do not like glitter, so these inks are so not my bag. However, there is obviously a market for it. People love this kind of thing. Yeah, so I'm doing it. I'm doing it for you people. Now, obviously, it's not Simmering Seas, it is Shimmering Seas. I should really proofread these things. Anyways, as you can tell, it's sort of a dark blue with gold glitter, which is kind of a nice contrast. And the internal Ravenclaw in me, because it is my house, rather likes this. However, if it was more of a bronze color, I'd be happier. But yeah, there are 3 blues in the Shimmertastic series. There is Blue Lightning, which is a turquoise, Blue Pearl, which is more of a royal blue, and then there's Simmering Seas, which is sort of more of a, it's not a midnight blue, it's not a navy blue, it's almost like a denim blue, because it's got sort of a dusty quality to it. But yeah, the entire Shimmertastic line, along with Emerald of Chivor, was provided by the wonderful benefactor from Down Under, who used to want to be called He Who Shall Not Be Named, and I kind of wish he still did. But anyways, if you are appreciating these reviews, send him some love, because he was kind enough to donate them. So, here are the 2 pens that I used. This is a JinHao X450, and I love my X450s because they tend to be pretty broad and pretty wet, and this one is a Pilot Metropolitan with a Japanese medium. However, every single ink that I've tested, because I tend to use a broader nib and a finer nib, because these are Japanese made, and even a Japanese medium is a fairly fine Western fine, and Japanese fine is like writing with the corner of a razor blade. Every single test I used a Metro or something like a Metro to test these inks, and every time this happened. Yeah, that's what I'm coming to call glitter pileup. And what happens is the glitter ends up getting caught in the feed, and like next bit gets stuck behind the next bit, piles up until it's really hard for any glitter to get out. So the longer I was using it and the longer, the deeper into the test we got, the less glitter was coming out. And this happened with every single ink. And I used 5 different Metropolitans to do these 10 inks. So I think there's a pattern there. However, something else I've noticed across the entire series is whatever the base color is, so in this case the dark blue, regardless of the gold glitter, the ink component, they all flow fairly wet. So yeah, I don't know, maybe it's sort of like an effort to like try and flush the glitter through or something, but yeah, so they've all had problems with Metros or Metro-like things like the Pilot MR. Something to keep in mind. Just, for your own caution and education. Now, I do not have the Gerabin's Bleu Mer, or whatever it is, the Blue Ocean. I do not have that one. Apparently I have Simmering Seas. But, yeah, since I don't have sort of the nearest comparable, which is the Gerabin Blue Ocean, I unfortunately just had to try and find inks that match this color of blue. So, turning it to the side where you can't see the glitter. So, as close as I could find to something like that. So, here is Diatramentus Sherlock Holmes, which you can see, it is lighter, but it has sort of this similar dusty color, because there is some dustiness, like especially through there, some sort of similar texture quality. KWZ of Poland's Blue Black, which I actually thought was quite similar. Rather nice, although I think this one definitely has the potential for a lot of shading. Haven't tested it yet. Diamine's Midnight Blue, which I think might just have, like, it's lighter. I think this one would have tiniest touch more purple. This one, teeniest lean towards green. And then Noodler's Midnight Blue, which again I think is a bit lighter. And this one is just teeniest bit leans more towards purple. Yeah. There you go. Those are comparisons. Now, bear with me because I'm going to zoom in, and it is never graceful. Okay. So here are the chromatographies. Yep. Now, this one is how it's supposed to be done, where you put the line of ink and instantly drop it in the water. And actually, it's hard to tell because of the angle, but all of the glitter, or I'd say 95% of it, remained where that initial line was. The odd little bit of it will go up, but really not much. You can see where the initial drop was put. It's not a completely blank slate all the way up, but it is a very similar shade of blue. Not a lot of variation in it. It's a rather nice sort of dusty denim blue. And then here's where I let it dry. Most obvious difference being that the dot surrounding the initial drops, much darker. And oddly, this area right here, where it's moving up, it's not as dense. So yeah, but yeah, all the glitter stayed down below. So now, wanted to do a couple experiments on what it could resist. Now, water got it moving fairly well, but here's something interesting. A lot of times when this happens, when you sort of do this 1/3 bleach test, when you get a result like this, it's almost as though the ink is an iron gall, because iron galls tend to do this with dark blues. So I thought that was rather curious. I don't think this is an iron gall, but I do think it's rather interesting that it behaved almost like an iron gall. Now, ammonia pen flush got it moving, but water got it moving just fine. Hydrogen peroxide, much the same. So much glitter. Oh, so much glitter. Okay, moving on. Paper test. Top down in density, Clairefontaine, 90 grams per square meter. Yeah. Holy moly. Yeah, that's a lot of glimmer. But yeah, I'm gonna bring it in at the side so we can take a look at it without the glitter. Lovely shading. Very nice shading. You can see it even in this Japanese medium. It can get very deep and rich in the darkest parts of the scrubby. Now, the Japanese medium took 17 seconds to dry. The fairly broad and wet JinHao took 32. And it's not the densest ink. I mean, you can see through that. And like here, you can still see little bits of the quadrilateral paper. But I actually find I really like this blue. Just the blue itself. Sort of a nice sort of dusty denim color. The flow was because of the glitter starting to pile up. But yeah, it's intensely glittery. But once again, so like we start here with the 5 boxing as we go on and on until like by the end it's kind of patchy. And then down here, again, with the Japanese medium, like less and less and less and less until there's almost none, which is unfortunate. But yeah, there's no bleed, no feather, no spread, no echo, no sheen. Very well behaved in that regard. And actually more remained than I thought it would. It didn't dye the page a lot, it did a bit, but you can still see a little bit of everything. It's not super clear and not all of it remains, but I wasn't expecting much, so anything was more than I expected. Now, next up is Fabriano Eco Qua. It's an 85 gram per square meter paper. It's probably my favorite to write on. And again, we're going to bring this in sideways so we can enjoy the ink without the shiny. And isn't it, it's a nice color, right? You can see the shading. It's got a nice sort of dusty quality to it. It's not purple, but it's like it's thinking about it. It's a blue that's thinking about purple. Not thinking about changing to purple, just thinking about it. Now that Japanese medium took 17 seconds to dry. The broad and wet JinHao took 32. So much glitter. So much glitter. My hands are just going to be like gold. I'm going to look like Midas at the end of all these. But yeah, but here, like as you can tell, like in the swirlies and the hoopies and the crosshatches, there's really not much glitter coming out of that MR. And here in the writing, the 5 boxing wizards, we're not getting much glitter there. Until like down here, it's essentially gone. Like look at that. There's like maybe the odd spot. But it's pretty gone. And it's becoming a bit of a problem. But yeah, no bleed, no feather, no spread, no echo, no sheen. All very good in that regard. And once again, it didn't dye the page much. And a little bit of everything was left behind. So I don't know, if for some reason you decided to write a all-time life important document that had to be recovered in shimmery ink, maybe you could recover something if you were super, super determined. Now, next up is Rhodia, 80 grams per square meter. Yeah, lovely shading. Again, when we come in at the side, we can see it very nicely. We can see it in that Japanese medium even. Speaking of the Japanese medium, 16 seconds to dry. Brown Wet JinHao, 31. And here's something you might notice. The glitter is getting a little thinner on the X450 as well. I was starting to experience a bit of pileup with this ink in the glitter in the X450. I primed the feed, you know, just a little bit, just like gave it like not even a quarter turn on the converter, and it was fine. But it is something that I had to do and was worth mentioning. But yeah, no bleed, no feather, no spread, no echo, no sheen. And water test, again, didn't dye the page much, and a little bit of something from all across was left behind. So, I don't know, better than nothing. Now, next up is Tomoe River paper, and this is a cream colored paper. And it's known for drawing out shading and sheen and dry times and echo, and it did all of that except sheen. At least I don't think it did. So here, I'm going to bring it in. You see these extremely dark areas, like a dark halo around the wettest parts? A lot of times when an ink does that on this paper, it implies that it could sheen or that it has the potential to sheen in extreme circumstances. Here, I can't tell because as soon as I turn it to try and get it in another light, it just turns straight gold. So, I don't know. Maybe if I managed to siphon it away from the glitter and poured it on, maybe I'd get sheen, but I honestly can't tell. And honestly, I kind of like it like this. Yes, it can almost look almost thin in the some areas, but even that I kind of like because it's dusty and then it shades a great deal. I like the color. The Japanese medium took 22 seconds to dry. The Brown Wet JinHao took 49. Now yes, that is long. However, I think it was Golden Sands took a minute and Red Luster took 2. So let's grade on a scale here, people. Could be worse. And also, the blue component is fast drying. This is a hydrophobic paper. There's glitter. Grade on a scale. Now, there's no bleed, no feather, no spread, no sheen. But there is some echo, because in some areas, especially with that X450, it got put on pretty heavily, and it can get quite dark. And this is extremely thin paper. This is already a semi-dark blue. So if you're super sensitive to it, maybe keep that in mind. If you compulsively have to write on both sides of paper, and it has to be Tomoe River, and you have to use this ink, and it's a dark blue, I don't know, maybe just stick with the Japanese medium. That one's really not so bad, but still. That's a lot of compulsions. Now, this paper loves to let ink slide away when you add more water, and it did and didn't, because it barely dyed the page at all. Like, even away from the camera, I can't really tell. But there's a little bit of something left behind, particularly with that X450. You can tell which lines and dots are the X450. It's not perfect, but I don't know. Maybe there'd be enough to intuit the rest. Now for the next 3 tests, I only used that Metro with the Japanese medium. And except to write the name, which I used the X450. And here, at the X450, you can still see plenty of glitter. This is the world's worst 20-pound copier paper. And let's just compare the spread. Same pen, Tomoe River. The line width got much broader. Yeah. There is some feathering. It's not obtrusive. It's not all over the place everywhere, but like, okay, so the dots, top of the E, bottom of the E. It's not everywhere, but it is there. There is a good deal of spread. 3 seconds to dry. And there's a lot of show through, but what's interesting is there's not a lot of bleed. There's some spots where it looks like it's almost ready to come out the back, but it never quite makes it. When I was doing the test, I kept lifting it up and being like, no bleed yet. No bleed. So, it nearly comes through. It's nearly there. But it never got onto the page below. So at least there's that. But let's look at this water test. Now, more absorbent papers tend to draw the ink in, make it harder to wash out, and that is definitely what happened here. However, a lot of times on these tests, even though the paper doesn't want to let it go, it'll just freak out. It'll turn into a cactus monster or something. It could have been a lot worse. It didn't get a lot lighter. It didn't start to just like overlap and just turn into like some scary fast-growing fungus kind of thing. It didn't super spread. It didn't super feather. If you had to recover that, you could. Now, next up is Mead-like paper, not actual Mead because I ran out. This is a Staples off-brand, and I think it was blessed by dark sorcery because it's behaving like premium paper. Yeah, I don't know. It's like 7 years old. Maybe it ages well. I'm not sure. Now, again, here, what was written with the X450, lots of glitter. Here, almost none. Almost none. In fact, it's essentially none, which I'm kind of fine with because I like this shade of blue. But if you're paying for shimmery ink, you probably want shimmer. So, you know. Now, the ink took 5 seconds to dry on here. You do get some shading, though. Now, again, I can't guarantee that your paper will act like this because I don't know. This is weird. But, yeah, so this paper is very thin. It's thinner than 20-pound copier paper. This is a fairly dark blue. It's on the dark side of blue. And it's still shading. There might be some echo if you're super sensitive to it, but not because it's nearly coming to the other side. Not even remotely. It's just because it's dark and the paper's thin. And I consider myself picky. This would not bother me. So, now, this is really letting slide away when added water. I mean, it's really gone. There's a little bit of something there, but really not easy to recover, but it didn't dye the page, so that's nice. Now, last up is Moleskine notebook paper, which is terrible. It's terrible. It's awful paper. It's very poorly made. They make you pay a lot of money for it, and I hate it. Now, let's bring this in. Do you see like any glitter outside of the scrubby? Or what was written with the X450? No. It's gone. Oh, no, wait. Part of the N. Hooray! Unacceptable. But anyways, look at the wooliness. You can see the pulp that they mashed into the paper. Look at this intense feathering. It is just ugly looking. There is no shading. It is just hideous. And look at this. I can read this from the other side. Yes, this is the X450. This isn't. This isn't. This isn't. That isn't. This isn't. Now there was one thing that kind of surprised me. That is practically legible. That doesn't always happen with this paper. I don't know. If for some reason you had to recover this, maybe you could. You're not going to get a whole lot of shimmer, at least not in the Metro, but I don't know, it could be worse. Did you see yesterday's? Because yesterday's freaked out. I hate ending on Moleskine. It puts me in such a funk. So there you go. There's Diamine's Shimmering Seas. No, I'm kidding. It's Shimmering Seas. Ignore my absentee writing. It's actually quite lovely shade of blue. And again, I think I mentioned this when I did Night Sky, which is their black ink. I really like the contrast between sort of the bright, vibrant metallic and the darker color. I feel like, you know, the difference between the two is more noticeable, it's more dramatic, whereas something as light and gold as Brandy Dazzle, with then the gold, it doesn't have the impact. Whereas I rather like this, but because I've been traumatized by glitter, I would love if I could just get the blue. That'd be fantastic. But yeah, so there you go. For your consideration from the Triple N Network. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel. And thanks for watching. Bye.